Okay, so we'll just give it a few minutes before we start, just let some people arrive. Okay then, so welcome everyone to today's event, all about the RTPI Young Planner Awards. So I'm Beth Jones, I'm a Planning Policy Officer at Colchester Borough Council and the Chair of the East of England Young Planners Committee. So just before we start today, just a few housekeeping points. So all attendees have been muted, but if you've got any questions, then please do put them in the chat box and we can put them to our panellists who we've got on the call today. So the format for today is I'll give a bit of a brief overview of what the RTPI Young Planner Awards are all about before we dive into the panel discussion with our 4 Young Planner Award winners that we've got on the call today. So we're joined by Laura Archer, Ryan Walker, Robyn Skerratt and Matthew Harmsworth. The event will be recorded and will be available on the RTPI YouTube channel afterwards. You can watch it back. If you do lose connection at any point, then please just rejoin the event. Hopefully none of the speakers will lose connection, but if we do, then just bear with us while they also rejoin. So without further ado, we'll talk a bit more about what the RTPI Young Planner Awards actually are. So each English region and Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland all have a Young Planner Award in their regional awards categories. So this Young Planner Award celebrates the success of an RTPI member in the early stage of their career from anywhere within the planning profession. The RTPI Awards are the longest running, best attended and most high profile awards in the industry that champion the best planners in our society. The awards are an opportunity to demonstrate how an individual has contributed to planning or has had significant career achievements in recent years. So a young planner is someone in their first 10 years of work experience post-qualification. You can nominate yourself or you can be nominated by a colleague, a peer or your employer. The awards are currently open and they close on the 2nd of July with applications being made on the RTPI awards platform. The finalists will be announced in September and the award ceremony will follow in winter this year. So we thought it would be a good idea to find out a bit more about the Young Planner Awards from some of our recent winners, which we've got 4 of on the call today. So we've got Laura Archer, Matthew Harmsworth, Robyn Skerratt and Ryan Walker. So to kick things off, let's hear about Laura's experience of winning the South Coast Young Planners Award.
Thanks very much, Beth, and hello everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. I've got a few slides, just thought I'd add some pictures. Hopefully you can all see that okay. But I just want to first start off by saying well done guys to the East of England for this good, really good event idea. I think it's really good to sort of shine a light on the young planners and the importance and the impact that the award can have. So I'm Laura Archer. I'm a Senior Planning Policy Officer at Portsmouth City Council. So I joined there in January, having previous experience in the private sector. So I'm sort of working out all the ins and outs of the local authority, seeing it from different sides and working on really exciting projects, including the National Model Design Code pilot at the minute. I'm also the RTPI Young Planner Trustee, so that's an elected role within the RTPI, and so I attend sort of board meetings and also chair the Young Planners Network Chairs meetings, which I'll come on to a little bit further. And then first, I'm just going to talk about in 2019 when I won the South East Young Planner Award. So here's some slides showing some pictures from the day. So started off really, first of all, I'm actually originally from Liverpool and then I went to Newcastle. So when I moved down to the South Coast, I literally didn't know anyone. So I joined the South Coast Young Planners Committee, sort of just to know, find more people, find out about the area and also the issues and what, the geographical location, what I'd be covering in my roles. And then through that, obviously, I then became chair of the South Coast Young Planners Committee and just really wanted to sort of provide as many free events as possible, and also promote the planning as a profession to those starting off primary school, secondary school, colleges, and that's sort of what we did. We spoke a few times at Brighton University and schools within Portsmouth. So at the time, I was sort of doing all this, my colleague I was working with at Adams Hendry at the time decided to nominate me for this award, and that was because obviously what I was doing, he saw through South Coast Young Planners, but also just within work, when I used to work there, I was sort of helping them promote the company as well, sort of, social media and just doing other things on the side of that. So yeah, he sort of, that's why he felt like he was going to nominate me. And yeah, so what happened then is I got shortlisted. I went for an interview where I presented a presentation. So that was more about, my key interests, promoting the planning profession being one, and sort of engaging with other networks such as Women in Planning and IEMA, which is the Institute for Environmental Management and Assessment, and just sort of trying to link them networks together. So then in November 2019, I went to the awards ceremony, which was held at the top of the Spinnaker Tower in person, face to face. I got the award. Who knew what was to come the year after, a few months later? But also in the bottom right there, I've just put a photo actually from the afternoon before the awards, which the young planners were given the opportunity to take the RTPI president, Ian Tant, around that day. I just think, it's just really great as, to get these opportunities as young planners, because we then took him to some key developments in the South Coast, but shared our own opinion on these developments. So I just thought, there's a lot of opportunities that are out there, as a young planner committee, but also, when you go for the award as well and, win. So for the impact of the award, I was quite lucky that where I was working at the time, they had several press releases, in local press. So Portsmouth News, Southampton Echo, and also, several work bulletins. But I think from this as well, it's sort of definitely increased my confidence. So I've helped to organise CPD and network events for the regional committee, not just as a young planner level, and also chaired and presented at some of these events, and obviously online webinars this year and last year. And it's just, given that platform, obviously when you're working out on a regional level, the memberships are wider, bit more pressure, but it does, your confidence does boost, and it's a really good opportunity. And also when I won the award, I was asked to write an article for the RTPI, and also IEMA, which is the Institute of Environmental Management Assessment. And that was a really good opportunity because it was sort of, planning is related, but also sort of linking them and making the readers of the IEMA's magazine more aware of what we do as a profession. So yeah, I think all these things, they get your name out there, they help you to grow your professional network, but also have that support as well. I've met so many people. I've just learned so much through, being part of a network, and obviously through all these opportunities. I think they're so important for work as well, because when I started at Barton Wilmore, I was recommended by a colleague already there who I met through a networking event. When I went for my interview at Portsmouth City Council, I already knew the chief planner through the event I'd held, he attended, so you just pick up so many opportunities. And like actually before I went for my interview at Portsmouth, actually rang Beth in the East Midlands to get her advice. It's just I can't emphasize much how the support network really was there, and these opportunities are as well come off the back of the award. So I'm just going to quickly talk about the Young Planners Network, because I'm just going to champion that all the way through my speech. But so as I said before, I'm the Young Planner Trustee, which is a role for 2020 and 2021. So as part of the main thing of this is chairing the Young Planners Network Chairs meeting. So we meet 3 to 4 times a year. And that is all the chairs from across the region and nations, or like a representative who can attend that day. It's just really great to, we hear from different people, have a CPD offered there. We try and meet when we could face to face outside of London, at least for one meeting, which we actually got to Manchester and had a walking tour around there, which was really good. But again, just a support network, like I say, is just really good. And we sort of share how our committees are going. And just obviously encourage people who are there as well to pass on the awards and, to apply. So part of the RTPI Young Planners Network, we sort of encourage and, support the new WEC committees that are formed. So I think the most recent one was in Cornwall. we try and hold meetings outside of London. We offer that sort of CPD, as I mentioned. That was sort of, to make sure you can get the time to go with your employer. We also champion the Chief Planners of Tomorrow initiative, which I think Robyn was on, and that was, gives the opportunity, face to face at the time when, gave a young planner opportunity to shadow a chief planner, and that will hopefully be launching again soon. And also we talk about the Young Planners Conference, and you sort of learn how you can bid and how you can get involved with potentially bringing the Young Planners Conference into your region. And obviously the last one was held virtually. And again, I just think all of these just, the committee, like Beth, Ryan, you're on the committee, still in touch, still supportive throughout career. I just think that's the message throughout this is just a really good support network for your starting your career. And just to put this out there, if anyone is interested, some things that we're focusing on this year is sort of, understanding the governance within the RTPI. Really important one, developing ideas around changing young in the term of young planners. So if anyone is on this call who would like to get in touch to sort of be part of that discussion, let me know. Or creating a young planner manifesto, which is following on from a breakout session at the Young Planners Conference. And an idea which Robyn, when she was Young Planner of the Year last year, sort of mentioned about a Young Planners survey to actually reach those who aren't on Young Planners committees, and sort of what we need to do to make it, reach more people. So yeah, I think I've just quickly whistleblowed for Young Planners committees, but also the importance of the awards. So I'll stop going on about championing the supportive network and hand back to Beth. Thank you guys for having me.
That was great, Laura. And I think you're exactly right. It is one of the key things I've found so far from being involved with the Young Planners is the networking side of things. Like you said, you do just reach so many more people from outside your immediate area, which is a massive confidence boost as well if you're ever thinking of relocating or anything like that. So I completely agree with everything that you said there, Laura. If we go next to Matthew to hear a bit more about your awards experience from being highly commended in the East Midlands Awards last year.
Okay, brilliant. Let me see if I can share my presentation in Teams. That's showing up okay? Yep. Yeah. Okay, great. So there's me there, Matthew Harmsworth. So as Beth said, I won the highly commended award last year within the East Midlands region. I put all those letters there under my name. I promise not to show off, but to give a bit of context about my background, because I had quite, just to introduce myself, I had quite a unique background and lead into planning, really. I first of all did my bachelor's in psychology, which is essentially the degree a lot of people do when they're not sure what they want to do. And during that, I did a module on auditory neuroscience, which I especially liked, which led me into audiology. And unfortunately, the careers didn't pan out quite right for me, but I managed to kind of amalgamate the two, getting a position in project management for Suffolk County Council, developing their speech and language therapy services for children and young people. And it's the project management that got me into the planning work and onto a planning degree, etc. So I started off life in my planning career at a local authority, at local authorities in Mid Suffolk and West Suffolk. And that experience then led on to a developer role with Persimmon Homes. And then that moved me on from there to recently, in the last month and a half or so, getting a senior planner position with Barton Wilmore, which is where I currently am. So having that kind of background just has been a strength to me, I think, in the way my career has panned out in getting all three elements, the planning triangle, quite early on in my career, I would say, from local authority to developer to consultancy side, which each have their own facets to that. And that ties in, having such a broad background, I think, quite nicely to the fact that I live and work across two separate regions. So I live in the East Midlands region, but I work in the East of England region. So I'm actually on the Regional Activities Committee for East Midlands. and then the Young Planners Committee for East of England. And that's been, I think, a useful dynamic for me, networking wise, has already been mentioned, has been fabulous as a result of that. But also in making those connections, getting involved with things, helping activities progress across both of those regions, I think has been ideal during this time of COVID, especially when the focus has been more on the IT side of things and the webinars and online media, etc., to be able to put things together and have a bit more of a joined up approach across regions, which I would suggest would be, you know, I would love to see as a hybrid approach moving forward when we go back to in-person activities compared to webinars, etc., and online events. So moving on, essentially, that's a bit about my background. So as Bethany said, I won the Highly Commended Award, which essentially you have the Regional Young Planner of the Year award, and the Highly Commended Award is not quite as prestigious as the Regional Young Planner of the Year award, but it is its own reward in its own award in its own right. And it's a good headliner on my CV, certainly. When I had my recent interview with Barton Wilmore, the very first question they asked in my interview was, tell me about your recent award. And so that to me shows the level of significance that they gave to that. I told them a little bit about the award, about the background, how I put myself forward for it. I thought, why not give it a go? It's a way to get my name out there. It's a way to sort of get a bit of recognition, to network and create a few opportunities moving forward, especially being interested in consultancy positions, I would say. And their response to that was, that sounds fantastic. That shows a level of maturity that shows that networking is important to you, and that it's important to value how you present yourself on the planning scene. So I think that, as much as anything, is a very tangible benefit from having put myself forward for an award and having gained an award in and of itself. So that for me is the biggest difference I have seen between the two. It's always been something that when I've been speaking shortly after with consultants we've used at Persimmon, or in starting with Barton Wilmore, it's something that's often come up when people see my LinkedIn or my background, and is a good way to sort of introduce myself and say, yeah, I've got a little bit of something going for me, perhaps, to win something like that. So certainly for me, as a summary, I would say that, you know, during this time, especially, I think cross-regional working is especially important. We all have different backgrounds, as I have a very unique background, and everyone has their own story. And I think with the awards, it's an opportunity to showcase young planners in putting other people forward as well, that you think could be good role models for others moving forward, and an opportunity to tell another story. And at the end of the day, the more people we have going in for the awards, the more competitive it will be, and hopefully the better the quality of entries will have to be, and the more people we can celebrate, more planners in the industry we can celebrate, and hopefully learn from different people's careers into planning and journeys into planning. So that's my 2 cents on the subject.
That's great. Thank you, Matthew. I think you're right. It's really interesting to always hear about different ways people have got into their planning profession. I know yours is a slightly unique one. It's not one I've come across before. And then Laura is also, I would say, a potential outlier in the fact that she actually did a planning degree. And most planners that I come across have come from a geography or environmental background. So I think you're exactly right. It is a good way to hear more about ways that people can get into the profession as well. It doesn't have to be just the sort of standard geography route as well. So that leads us on nicely to Robyn, if you'd like to tell us a bit about your experiences of winning the National Young Planner Award last year.
Hello everyone, I'm Robyn Skerratt, and I was fortunate enough to win the RTPI Young Planner of the Year for 2020. And just thinking about the diverse backgrounds we've spoken about, I'm actually a geographer come planner, so another dimension that you touched upon there. So my day job is working at the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office as the lead responsible for sustainable development and financing, and that's overseeing the UK's implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Just a little bit about my career background, given others have spoken about theirs. So for the last 8 years, I've worked in national government, the majority of that time at MHCLG, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. But in the last 3 years, I've moved to a role that straddles the international and the domestic. And that's been a really insightful process for me, learning more about those opportunities where planning meets international and domestic interests. And I think one of the things I've taken from COVID is that the world really is interconnected, and some of those lessons about how we recover from COVID-19, build back better and reach net zero is going to be about that kind of global to local collaboration. So working in a role that has both international and domestic aspects, I feel very fortunate. I was going to take a slightly different approach and focus on 2 areas, some tips for applying or nominating somebody for Young Planner of the Year, and then also some of the benefits that I've found, which I think are beneficial from the award, but also just generally useful, hopefully useful reflections more generally as well. So first of all, some tips for applying. I think the first thing to say is have a go. I think that's been a message here. Do get involved and put yourself forward, or people you're inspired by, put them forward. That there is nothing to lose and so much to gain. The second thing would be to look closely at the criteria. When you see the forms to apply, there is criteria out there. I think it's making it really clear for those judging the skills and experience you have and how that aligns to the criteria. So making your application really straightforward for them to be able to look and compare and see how you've met those criteria. The third thing I say is think diversely about your skills and experience, and this is kind of links to Matthew's point as well. I think being a good planner is about bringing rounded perspectives. And I think that comes from the day job. I think that comes from volunteering. I think that comes from broader personal development. And if you bring all of those things out in your the story that you tell, your unique story, I think that can be really, really powerful. So all of those things contribute to making you a fantastic planner. I think the fourth thing I would say is make sure you think about what you did and the impact you had. Really do bring that out. Of course, planning is all about collaboration and being a team player. But it is really important when you articulate or nominate somebody for an award, thinking about their individual contribution within that. And I think the final thing is that I think what's really exciting about the Young Planners Awards, both regionally and nationally, is it's a brilliant platform to champion those early in their profession. And so thinking a little bit about what would you do if you were in these shoes and how you can support young people in the profession. And what have I kind of found as benefits of it? Well, I'm actually at the moment writing my outgoing blog, which will hopefully appear on the RTPI website shortly. So giving you a bit of a early heads up. So the first thing that I've taken from this is really about seizing the opportunity to put yourself forward in the first place, but also all of the kind of opportunities that come your way as a result. I kind of went in with the mindset, I think Laura's heard me say this before, of always finding ways to say yes to things and making the most of that year. It's all been virtual, but in many ways that's made it more inclusive, because I've been able to engage with a broader range of locations and geographies than perhaps I would otherwise be able to do if we were doing everything in person. And I think as well is think about how you can kind of constructively challenge, bring your unique perspective and make a difference. And I think that's a broader lesson as well. And I've been working quite closely with the RTPI to think about how we can really strengthen the platforms of the Young Planner of the Year, both regionally and nationally, to make sure that it has the maximum impact and those young planners' voices are really as strong as they can be within the RTPI. The second thing is around kind of collaboration, and I think we've touched on this a lot as well. It's been a fantastic opportunity to build a support network, a broader support network. I've found and I think LinkedIn's been wonderful for this, to be able to connect with people that you're working with, have got interests that you share, or in the same region as you, or have no kind of connections, but you're both young planners doing interesting things and want to be in touch. And I think that's been fantastic. And I think that collaboration is really beneficial across geographies, but also across sectors as well. As I've mentioned, I'm really interested in that bridge between the international and domestic, and also thinking about how different professions, particularly within the built environment, can contribute to delivery of the SDGs. So some of the sessions that I've organised while being Young Planner of the Year, many of which that are available on YouTube, have been about bringing those diverse perspectives. So two I'll just quickly name check, as one that I organised with the West of England Young Planners Network, which was a co-organised event all about local implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and how planners are locally introducing and implementing the SDGs. And then the second one was an event that I organised with the RTPI London Young Planners Committee, all about sustainable recovery in London. And we had a really broad range of speakers from different built environment professions there. So that collaboration, both across geographies and cross sectors, I think has been a great kind of reinforcement for me. And then the final thing is have fun and keep learning. I think that's been really important. Like whether you win or you don't win, I think going through the process of putting yourself forward or nominating someone else and telling that story is a really, really powerful discipline. And you will have fun, you'll meet people and make great connections. And I think it's also a great opportunity to keep learning as well. And that's been something that I've found. I've learned so much in the last year with having this opportunity to be Young Planner of the Year, to meet new people, interact across the regions and find out what's going on and be able to kind of collaborate and work together. So for me, hopefully that's been useful, some top tips for applying and some of the benefits that I've found. And yeah, just thank you so much, Beth, for organising this session. And I hope it's useful for everybody. Back to you.
Thanks, Robyn, and obviously thanks for being a part of the session. Although, obviously, as you said, you have been given the award during COVID, so we actually haven't had the opportunity to meet in person, which is really disappointing. But I'm glad you can join us virtually today. And one day, I'm sure we will meet in person when we are able to.
Exactly.
So over to Ryan, who is the Young Planner of the Year National Award winner for 2021.
Thanks, Beth. Thank you. So I am going to share screen, and let's all keep our fingers crossed that it actually works. So everyone see the screen okay? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all good.
Sorted. Okay. Oh, okay. So thanks very much for having us along, first of all, Beth. As you've said there, I was the 2021 winner for the National Young Planner of the Year. Still hasn't really sunk in yet, if I'm being totally honest, but hopefully that'll happen soon. It wasn't that long ago, so still early days. But yeah, in terms of my day-to-day work, I'm a chartered planning consultant working at the Paul Hogarth Company, where I specialise in sustainable placemaking and engaging with local communities for transformative regeneration. So my job covers all of Ireland, north and south. So with that comes a lot of challenges, but definitely comes a lot of opportunities as well too. So because of that, which has kind of been mentioned before, particularly with Laura there, and as well as with Matthew, when you're working in one place, living in another, you do kind of go out looking for opportunities to begin volunteering, to meet new people, etc., etc. And so my journey began with the RTPI as well. So my slides today, similar to Robyn, obviously I was awarded during the pandemic, so I don't have any nice photos of holding a trophy. Maybe at one stage I will, but at the moment, you're just going to have to maybe Photoshop that in if you want to take the moment now. So I'll take you through my journey with the RTPI, hopefully give you a little bit of an insight of how I got to where I am, but also to encourage you to volunteer as well too. So I came out of university having been involved in quite a lot of clubs, societies, different groups as well too within the Planning Society, which I really, really enjoyed, and so naturally kind of looked for where I could continue that as I came out into the professional career path. So the line I have in here, time volunteering is time well spent. It's something that I keep banging on about. Any young planners that I go speak to, any of the universities, any of the schools, it's kind of framing volunteering as being an investment in yourself as much as anything else. And I think that's really, really important. And if there's one thing that's taken away today, I hope that message is that's the message, you know, the value of volunteering, and that's kind of got me to where I am today and the award a couple of months ago. So for me, coming out of university and going into my career, I was looking at, well, what's my next milestone? And for me, it was the APCA. I wanted to become a chartered planner. So for career development, I knew I was going to have to hit certain competencies, and I actually have a form handily printed out here. I was looking through all my APC stuff the other day for some reason, and came across all the different competencies of leadership, of problem solving, project management, etc., etc. And as an assistant planner, you don't always have the opportunity to tick all those boxes, but getting involved with the RTPI, volunteering in whatever roles and capacities you could, definitely helped me towards that. And I would say, you know, undoubtedly that was part of the reason that I was able to get my chartered membership as quickly as I did. So some of the other points I'll not dwell on them, but they've already been covered, you know, in terms of networking, meeting new people, hearing new passions, experiences, taking other people's lived experiences and building on that for yourself. That was very much key to my drive of volunteering with the RTPI. So you can see here from this timeline, started back in 2017 and brings us way forward to 2021 this year. And you can see that iterative process of volunteering, which I kind of built up, purely because I actually really enjoyed it from no other reason than that. I know I'd started off looking at for my career and professional benefits, etc. But once I got into it, I met fantastic people already on this call already. You can see it's on the top photograph there as well, one of our days out in Manchester. And I just really, really enjoyed myself and wanted to continue pushing on that career journey and that professional, personal as well as professional journey too, which led me up to the award this year. So in terms of what happens when you do become Young Planner of the Year, I've just noted a few things down here. Now, bearing in mind I've only been in the role a couple of months, but there has been a lot of emails, a lot of meetings, etc., and all that going on, which has been great. But in terms of some of the key tasks there that I was able to carry out, I've set a couple of deliverables that I would like to see throughout the year, which hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to announce those publicly, and we'll be able to see some sort of events and other gestures towards those being delivered. In terms of benefits then, it's already been well covered there, the networking benefits in terms of the exposure to other professionals that are out there, which for me, my first job was in Belfast City Council, but through my work in the RTPI, tweeting about it, putting it on LinkedIn, you know, really publicising that on social media, I was contacted by a director of my current job to go for a coffee, which then led to my job that I'm in at the moment, which is always great. And having won the award there, I was contacted through LinkedIn about another company, and I've got a new job that I'll be starting in a couple of weeks as well too. So undoubtedly my experience through the RTPI volunteering has led to my career growth, and linked to that there as well, my personal growth as well too, I found has come on leaps and bounds in comparison to when I started off in 2017. So the next two slides have put down what makes a good planner and then what makes a good submission. They're both very, very intertwined, but I want to make the point that yes, if you're going towards a submission, that's great, and maybe that is something that you're wanting to work towards. But ultimately, if you're working towards being a good planner, that's getting you in the right place to win a good submission. And at the end of the day, that's what we should all really be aiming towards is being a good planner. So it's very much equipping yourself in terms of staying up to date with the latest theories and thoughts and practices as well too. Attending, as we said, their events, placements, volunteering opportunities, absorbing knowledge, passion and opportunity. Robyn's mentioned there about seizing opportunity, and I totally agree with that as well too. And then support. It's not just about yourself, but it's about helping others in their professional journey too. So in terms of what makes a good submission, the key point of me, there's no such thing as a perfect submission. Having been on the panel for a couple of different awards over the years, Women in Planning, etc., every single submission is different, and there's no such thing as well, this one stands a mile out. There's so many good planners out there that it's actually quite a difficult job to try and wean them down and sort of pick who would be commended and awarded at the top. So you just have to sort of be honest in terms of what you're putting down there, which is a key point about it. Demonstrate how you've been a good planner and how you've went about achieving certain competencies in your career and certain personal and professional highlights, showing a consistency and dedication to that as well. And I've said down at the bottom, equip and empower yourself and others. So again, it's that tying into not just what you've done in your career, but what you've done in your career to help others. I think that's really, really important. You know, as planners, we're supposedly working within the public interest, and even in our own professional capacity day to day, we should be trying to help not just the public, but our other planners as well, and the next generation of pipeline planners too. So that's all from me. Just a little bit of a snapshot on you. I was coming last and a lot of content would already be covered. So hopefully there's some value in terms of what was said there. And thanks again, Beth, for inviting us along today. It's been a really, really good session.
Thanks, Ryan. And by all means, going last doesn't mean that you didn't have great things to say. I especially liked your little taglines about time spent volunteering is time well spent. I couldn't agree with that more. I think we probably started being involved with the RTPI at a similar sort of time. So I was a student member of the RAC in 2017, and my confidence from when I went to my first RAC meeting to doing something like this today, I never could have done that in 2017, so I completely agree with what you said there. And it's always good to hear other people's experiences as well, as we've said earlier in the call. So, of course, if you do have any questions, then do pop them in the chat so we can put them to our panelists. But we'll kick it off to start with a question from Jenny from the East of England Committee. Has winning an award come with any commitments or expectations? I don't mind who wants to pick that one up to start with. Yeah, Ryan, take it away.
Yeah, it definitely comes with a certain extra amount of work with it. That said, I think the benefits totally outweigh any of those sort of inputs that you have to put within it. If you were to say, is there an expectation? I don't think there's necessarily an expectation winning the award. It's very much up to the awardee to decide how much they want to pick that up and run with it. You know, where you want to run with it too as well, how far, what you want to set for your agendas, your deliverables. That it's really an open game, and that's fantastic that the RTPI do allow you that opportunity. But I have found already, only a couple of months into it, yeah, yes, there's a lot of emails that are coming back and forth, there's organization, etc. But I really enjoy that, and it's, you know, it's only 1 year. You're probably never going to get this opportunity again, so you see it very much as Robyn said, seize the opportunity, go for it, make the most of it, because the benefits definitely outweigh any sort of time or resource input that you have to commit.
Yeah, just on a regional perspective, I guess, obviously, because national is more, I guess, time commitment at the minute. But for regional, obviously, we sort of, you know, left, you know, it's completely up to you what you want to get involved in. You know, you had to sort of, if you wanted to be involved in an event, put yourself forward. I think I was asked to do sort of an article, but the rest I was sort of left. It's up to me, really. But I think, obviously, future, obviously, you think, Ryan, you're working on at the minute, that it will be coming forward, that not necessarily structure, but more opportunities thrown your way to get involved with should you want to take the opportunity. So yeah, I think that's only a good thing though, like Ryan says, so many benefits.
That's great. Thank you both for your answers there. So I think we've already heard a bit from some of our speakers that winning an award has opened doors for you, but do you think that that they wouldn't have been possible if you hadn't have had your recognition from an RTPI award? Robyn, did you want to have a stab at that one to start with?
Yeah, no, very much so. I think a couple of thoughts. First is that it's a really good discipline being able to kind of go through the process of either nominating somebody or putting yourself forward for the award in terms of telling that story. And I think that's really helpful for you when you're articulating that to others, whether you win or not. I think the second thing for me is around kind of confidence, like having the opportunity to be commended, shortlisted, or win is a brilliant kind of boost for you, and that's been great. And I've learned so much across the course of the year about kind of being confident, putting myself there out even more, seeing things that I think could be done differently, could be done, and then suggesting that and working with others to drive that forward, or delivering it myself. So I definitely don't think it's all about winning the award, but I think it definitely has been a fantastic kind of confidence boost. But that's come with kind of hard work and determination and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. And there was the first thing, the sort of major thing I did was the Planner Live, not long after I received the award, and it was like 200 people. It was still not long after the pandemic started, where kind of virtual webinars and events were all still quite new. And that was really kind of a bit nerve-wracking, but actually sort of taking that leap, doing it is a real kind of, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone is the place that you learn most. And now it feels a lot less kind of daunting, partly because it's a lot more familiar, but I think just doing that once, and then linking to the point that Ryan made earlier about the more you put in, the more you get out. I think that that mantra is really true as well. And you can do that whether or not you've got an award to your name. So I think, and that can be done through the day job. It can be done through kind of extracurricular activities. And like Ryan, I'm a huge advocate of volunteering as a really powerful way of kind of giving back and broadening your skill set and your experience as well. Thanks.
That's great. Thanks, Robyn. I'm going to pass the next one on to Matthew, just because I know that you mentioned that you nominated yourself. So I've had a question about so how much preparation is needed for the submission, and how long does it take? Is it a really lengthy submission that you have to do?
There is a word limit. I can't remember how long off the top of my head it is, but it didn't take me too long. I mean, and really, I would say the key to it for me, having nominated myself and also having written a submission to nominate another planner, is to really think about ways to bring your experiences to life. I mean, and those in the context of the criteria. I'd signpost in the first instance 100% first port of call, look at what the criteria are that you'll be assessed against on the RTPI website under the awards section. Note those bullet points down as headers, and then sort of make notes under those, and that way it can very quickly form into a structure. And focus on outcomes as well. Yes, you might be able to write very quickly a quite straightforward and quite to the point submission that lists all the things that you've achieved, what you've done over your career, etc. But in terms of outcomes, as to what was the result of that, not being afraid to talk about the challenges that there are that went along with each of the experiences that you're talking about. What did you learn along the way, and where are you now compared to where you were before, compared to 1 year ago, 2 years ago? So yeah, in short, doesn't have to take too long, but structure is important, and just giving it a bit of life, making it a fantastic read rather than a simple black and white, this is what I did, here are the facts. Having the quality as well as the quantity in there. And on the previous question as well, I'd just like to add as well, because I think it's valuable from my experience, is that I think for a context, moving to Barton Wilmore from a client side to a consultancy side, interestingly, in the Cambridge offices, those who interviewed me mentioned that there had never been anybody recruited from developer client side for that particular office before. It had all either been previous consultancy experience or local authority experience, which, says that it's not necessarily, hard and fast rule that you can't go from client side to consultancy side with a bit of help. But it's certainly one of those things that helps make you stand out. And if you're not necessarily from a consultancy side previously, or you're going from one side of planning to another, it's another arrow to your bow to demonstrate that you have, as my interviewer put it, a level of maturity that you can reach out to people and make connections and do your own learning in and of yourself, rather than just simply relying on your employer for networking and publicity.
Yeah, Ryan, did you want to add something?
Yeah, please. It was actually just to make the point. It was kind of, as a couple of other speakers have been mentioning it, and it's really just to sort of reinforce it at home. If anyone is considering putting in a submission, nominating themselves, don't worry about whether you win it or not. And even when you're starting to think about, as Matthew's mentioned, are you hitting certain or achieving certain outcomes, and as well, and looking at that, make the most of the process. So when you're sitting down and you're filling out the submission form and you're looking at what the criteria is, if you're starting to go through that and think, oh, I'm not sure if I've hit that criteria, or I'm not sure if I've delivered on this outcome or whatever, well, then that process in itself, for the next year, you could be setting yourself goals. So this is what I need to achieve. This is the sort of work I need to get involved in. And these are the sort of outcomes I need to be trying to deliver for certain communities or whoever your client is. So as much as winning the award would be fantastic, use the process in itself, because that will undoubtedly sort of strengthen your own professional development. And maybe you do start to go through it and you submit it this year and maybe you don't win it, that's okay. But then you can build upon that and be a reflective planner, because that's where the value is. And next year, if you do submit it, maybe your submission is noticeably much more competent because you've made the most of that. So don't just think about winning the award, but think about the process and using the process to get the value for your own career as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Ryan. It's sort of it's like when you do your APC process and you're doing your professional development plan, and you're like, right, well, where do I want to be in 2 years' time? That's the awards process can be a really good way of identifying how you do need to what you can do to progress in your career. I think that's a really good point to make, and sort of touches on a question that we just had about from someone saying, well, I'm a bit hesitant about whether I should nominate myself or not. I don't know if I've got enough experience. So hopefully they'll feel confident enough to just have a go. It's not always about the winning, it's the taking part that counts, isn't it, as well? So I think that's a really good point to make. We have had another question come in as well about saying, do you have to be an RTPI member to be nominated for the award? And the answer is yes, you do have to be a member of the RTPI, but that can be a student member, a licentiate. You don't have to necessarily be a chartered young planner yet. I know that there's some people don't go through that route straight away. Depends if what course you're on. You could be someone on one of the new apprenticeship schemes, so you might not be a chartered planner yet, but if you are a member of the RTPI in some capacity, then by all means put yourself forward or nominate a colleague for the awards.
Yeah, when I won, I was a student member, so just putting that out there. You don't have to be chartered.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Laura. So I've got one more question that's come through from Alistair. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time, and has getting an award made this dream a reality? I think that's one that I want to put to all of you. So who's feeling brave and wants to go first? Well, I'm going to pick on Laura instead.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm just thinking, well, actually, when I went for my interview for my regional award, we were just talking, obviously I had to do a presentation, as mentioned before, and then they sort of said, because I got involved in all this RTPI stuff, you'll be going for Victoria Hill's job soon. So maybe that's where I'll say I'm going to be in 10 years. No, definitely not just 10. But no, I think from probably, hopefully she doesn't watch this. No, but she should watch it. But no. I think definitely, it's been an eye-opener for me this year, just joining local authority and just sort of seeing that perspective. I'm now I just think it's so important to see, like Matthew said, the different sides of the planning system, because when I was in consultancy, I worked with people who, would moan about local authority plans, but never actually worked in local authority, so they don't understand. And there is a lot that goes in there. I mean, obviously, every side of the profession, I think, is well worthwhile. So I think I'd definitely like to, obviously, I'm obviously quite new to local authority, obviously continue to develop that, but also maybe try a different sector again, just because I do think sort of to understand everything, the ins and outs, what departments speak to each other and what doesn't, what happens behind the scenes. I think you do sort of need at least some experience on each side. So yeah, I don't know if that was, apart from stealing Victoria's job, that's about yeah.
I think that's a really interesting point, because my background, I've been in local authority for nearly 6 years, which is crazy that's that time already. But I've had 3 quite different roles in that time. So I've seen lots of different sides to different local authority teams, obviously being minerals and waste to a regular district borough planner is quite different in itself before you even throw into the mix my other role I had at Essex County. So I think you're completely right. I would always champion people getting as much experience as they possibly can, because I think you can learn something different from each role that you're in, and I think we're probably both clear examples of that from our experiences so far. So I think we'll move on to if anyone's got any sort of top tips for the submission. I know we've touched on that a bit already, but Matthew, I think you had a couple of tips you wanted to give to anyone out there who's busily preparing their submission.
Yeah.
And you're
On mute.
on mute.
Yeah.
There we go.
Present this slide. I mean, largely we've covered the points that there are on this slide, but as means as a summary, I guess, and a refresher into what makes a good submission. Number one, as I say, address the criteria in the first place, and think about your structure and the points you're going to make accordingly. It's a good starting point to get your thought process going and put some words together. Also, I'd signpost as well, refer to the RTPI How to Win guide. Very easy to find. I think if you literally just Google RTPI Awards How to Win guide, it'll come up straight away there in any search engine. As I say, bring experiences to life to show yourself as a real person rather than simply just a series of achievements. And as Ryan said, get the most out of the process. Think about outcomes. It's very much like, as Beth said as well, your personal development plan review process. I see it as quite similar that you go through for putting yourself forward for chartership, in terms of thinking about where have I come from, what has my experience led me to over the next couple of years, and even, you know, what makes me a great planner now moving forward, and what are my main strengths, and you can put that forward. And it's a really valuable exercise to go through in and of itself, regardless of the final, whether you win the award or not, to be able to go through. So really, that's my whistle stop tour. I think all the best points have been made already, to be honest, on that front. I would say as well, in addition to the last question as well, in 10 years time, I think for me personally, having been had at least a brief experience of all different major parts of the planning world, I would personally, given my background, I think especially having quite a varied education, I would say that my ambition would be to stay in consultancy side, and to work up to partner level, ideally at Barton Wilmore at the moment. I don't think there's anybody from Barton Wilmore on this call now, so that's genuine. I'm not just saying it because to impress anybody, but yeah, that's where I see myself. And I think twinning this with the PDP, the personal development process as well, genuinely every year or two, having that bit of self-reflection is a really good way to move your career forward as well, and make sure that you stay on track. Back to you, Ben.
That's great, thank you, Matthew. And I think as you brought back the conversation to where do we see ourselves in 10 years time, I'm going to pick on Ryan next, because you've celebrated very much that you didn't have to answer that question. So now I want to know what you're going to say.
I thought you'd forgot. I was like, what's going on?
That's karma coming back to get me, isn't it? A lesson was learned there. Now don't do that in future. 10 years time, I guess. Similar scenario. I came out of university and I was in local authority, so I worked for Belfast City Council, producing a local development plan with an economic focus. Moved into private sector, jumped to the dark side, and worked for a multidisciplinary practice, which was fantastic. Picked up a lot of skills, working with landscape architects and appreciation of the natural and built environment, working together in schemes and sort of sustainable, transformative regeneration. So I've definitely really enjoyed that sort of niche of the work that I've been in at the moment. I would say the next 10 years, I would quite like to get involved in large scale complex regeneration and physical development. And at the end of that, I don't know, I just kind of enjoy the journey as we've been going along. each of the different elements and chapters of my career have not necessarily been planned, and they've been quite organic in terms of how they've came through and opportunities that came about. So I'm just totally going to keep eyes wide open for any other opportunities throughout the 10 years and make the most of them as they go along.
Robyn, I think you know what's coming your way next. Where do you think you might be in 10 years' time?
Well, we have less than 10 years left to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and we've got this decade of action ahead. So for me, it's all about thinking about what roles and opportunities I continue to take to help make sure that we are in the best possible position to get there. That for me is a real kind of a powerful motivation and a kind of clear deliverable that we want to get to by 2030 globally. So being able to play a role in that and make a contribution to that is a real passion for me. But my career so far, and one of my objectives as part of Young Planner of the Year was all about championing non-linear career paths. I started out in local government, spent a few years in consultancy, and then moved into national government, having worked at 3 different government departments so far. So I really think it is for me about that journey. The jobs that I've taken haven't always been jobs that I known existed until I kind of found out about them, saw them advertised, etc. So it's about that kind of going back to that point I made earlier about seizing opportunities. So I don't think if I'd said 10 years ago, where would I be in 10 years' time, I would have necessarily been able to articulate where I am now. So yeah, keeping eyes wide open and seeing what opportunities are out there is definitely on my mind. But with that kind of Sustainable Development Goal anchor helping guide me through.
That's a great answer, Robyn, and I like the plug for the Sustainable Development Goals there.
Always find the opportunity.
Definitely. As everyone else has answered, I feel like I need to too. I think mine would be I want to shatter the glass ceiling. I want to be that woman that is at the top table talking about planning, knowing about planning, having worked in it for 10 plus years. That would be my, I'd say a local authority because that's where I am now, but that would definitely be my career aspiration. So thanks everyone for joining the call today. It's been really great to speak to you all and hear about your experiences, and I hope everyone has enjoyed it as much as I have and feel inspired to either nominate themselves, to have a go just at the awards process, put yourself forward, or nominate a colleague, because it is definitely a great way to network and gain more experience and make new friends, which I feel like I've definitely got some of those on this call today. So I hope everyone has enjoyed it, and it's been a great session. So please do keep in touch with all of us through our various LinkedIn profiles, and some of us are on Twitter, things like that. And I hope to speak to you all soon and hopefully see you in person as well. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks everyone.
Well done, Beth. Really good, really good. Really, I'm really inspired. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks
much.
again, Beth.
It's lovely
Thank
to
you.
see you all.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.